Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putriti Tanmaitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Abhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we are going to begin. Today is the blessed day of Shivaratri, the day that Parvati and Lord Shiva Mahadev got married. Actually, they are eternally united, but for purpose of pastimes, right? We had mentioned this earlier, that after Sati, who is also the eternal consort of Lord Shiva, same person, for the purpose of pastime, she left her body connected with Daksha, burned herself in mystic fire to be disassociated with her sinful father. And then Lord Shiva executed his retribution and then was single for a long time, but then his consort reappeared as Parvati. So, that's another story. So we're going to begin by offering obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asta Tarsat Sri Simad Abhaya Charanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asta Tarsat Sri Simad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So, when we discuss Lord Shiva, there are so many angles and ways in which we would do this. First of all, he has innumerable pastimes in connection with Krishna. In Vrindavan, Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna in Dwarka, right? Very beautiful pastimes with Lord Ram, with our acharyas. Actually, you asked if our acharyas were involved. Yes. Many, and with the acharyas of the other sampradayas. So the sources that I'm going to draw from are primarily two. This is not something we can do in a single day. So the first thing is a compilation, a book called Siva Tattva. It was compiled from lectures of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, and excerpts and summaries of stories found from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, and in the Bhagavatam, other things. And this Siva Tattva book helps us to understand how to view Lord Shiva from different angles, and how to understand his different manifestations, because he comes in many different forms. So it's very complicated. Gurudev has said that. So I'm going to read excerpts from this Siva Tattva book. And the first chapter begins with Srila Narayana Maharaj lecturing about Narad Muni seeking to find the topmost devotee. And then he goes to see Lord Shiva, right? And Lord Shiva sends him to Prahlad. And there's a progression, right? Step by step of different kinds of devotees. And then interspersed in his lectures are many, many different stories about Lord Shiva and his pastimes and interactions with the Lord to give us different understanding. So I'm going to skip to this section called The Principle of Shiva, which is a summary of one part of the Brahma Samhita. So Srila Narayana Maharaj says that the principle of Shiva, Siva Tattva, is extremely complex. The principle of Brahma is not as complicated because Lord Brahma is always a jiva, a finite spirit soul. Sometimes when there is no qualified jiva, Lord Vishnu personally takes the post of Brahma, but that is rare. Lord Shiva is not like that. He is not a finite soul. After passing through the 8 material coverings, and after crossing the Viraja River, that division between the material and spiritual worlds, and, going beyond Lord Brahma's planet, which is in this realm, one comes to the planet of Shiva. There, he is known as Sadashiv, a manifestation of Lord Vishnu. So in the hierarchy of Vaikuntha planets, there's Goloka Vrindavan, then there's the greater Vaikuntha abode with all the different planets of the different expansions, incarnations, and then below that, but still in the spiritual realm, is the abode of Sadashiv, right? So, Shiva Tattva can be understood by the analogy of yogurt and milk. Yogurt is nothing but a transformation of milk. Milk can become yogurt, but yogurt cannot become milk. The analogy is found in Sri Brahma Samhita and elucidated in Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. Quote, just as milk is transformed into yogurt by contact with a transforming agent, Sri Govinda, Lord Sri Krishna, similarly accepts the form of Shambhu, this is one form of Lord Shiva, in order to accomplish a specific purpose. The example of yogurt is actually given in order to convey the idea of cause and effect, not the idea of transformation. Sri Krishna is reality and cannot be transformed. So it is not possible for him to undergo any kind of distortion. A wish-fulfilling gem manifests many things according to one's desire, yet its constitutional nature remains untransformed. So in that, he's just a general introduction, and he refers in that section to that form of Lord Shiva known as Shambhu. And Shambhu is the form of Lord Shiva coming from that Sadashiva, and he manifests as a semblance of the creative desire of Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is empowered and invested with the intent to create the material universes. Right? In order to accomplish that, he accomplishes it through his own desire, which is his glance, and through the agency of his own Shakti, Ramadevi. But neither Mahavishnu nor Ramadevi actually have any direct personal contact with this material energy. Rather, they do it through their special agents. The special agent of Ramadevi is her expansion for the purpose of material functioning, Mahamaya. Right? And the glance, the desire glance of Lord Vishnu, a semblance of that glance, a reflection of that glance, is Shambhu, right? That very specific form of Shiva. And that's going to be described in much more detail when we read the Brahma Samhita in a day or two. That form of Shambhu, who's responsible for, he is the time agent, he carries all the living entities and impregnates them into the unmanifest material energy, and he imparts the seed of desire into his Shakti, just as Krishna has desire, Icha, and Radhika fulfills that desire, right? But she becomes the agent for all things that take place. Without the Shakti, nothing could happen. So he transforms that desire. That desire then becomes the desire of his Shakti, Mahamaya, and then she manifests step by step the material creation. So that form of Shiva, Shambhu, and Parvati or Mahamaya, they are responsible for the creation of this material universe. And the secondary creation takes place in each universe by the agency of Lord Brahma. But they're responsible for getting the whole thing started. And there's more detail. I won't get into that now. But what that form of Shiva is, right? How, as yogurt, he's the same and yet different from the milk. That's very interesting, but we don't want to get into that right now. So I'm going to scroll down and read excerpts from this lecture. Now there's another form. Lord Shiva eternally resides in Lord Krishna's abode, Vrindavan, where he manifests many forms to render devotional service to him. The form of Gopishwar Mahadev was manifested by Lord Krishna's desire. When Krishna desired to perform his rasa dance, Srimati Radhika, the embodiment of his pleasure potency, manifested from his left side, and Gopishwar Mahadev manifested from his right side. Right? So this is a gopi form of Lord Shiva. There's a pastime about that. The form is eternal, but Lord Shiva has a male and a feminine form in the eternal Vrindavan. Right? And there are many pastimes with Mother Jashoda, with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, in Braj, in his male form. And in that male form, he becomes the Lokapala, the protector of the different forests. In every forest, there's a deity of that specific form of Lord Shiva who oversees and protects that. As Gopishwar, he is the protector of the Rasa Leela, the gatekeeper. He witnesses it, and he doesn't allow unqualified people to enter. So in Vrindavan, to this day, there's a temple, Gopishwar, and it's a dual form. There's a lingam of Lord Shiva, the male form, but then over that lingam is placed a mask or something which shows his feminine form. He's both, right? So, the form of Shiva who lives in Kashi or Kailas in the material world is a partial manifestation of the original Sadashiv in Vrindavan, right? That original Sadashiv in Vrindavan, from which the Sadashiv who has his own planet manifests, but the original Sadashiv is in Vrindavan. And there's a form in Kailash with his wife, but they are expansions of that original form. The many other commonly worshipped forms of Lord Shiva are expansions of Sadashiv. They are not the original. Partial expansions such as Pipaleshwara Mahadev, Bhuteshwara Mahadev, Rangeshwara Mahadev, and so on, cannot award the benediction that can be attained by the mercy of Gopishwar, the highest perfection of love, namely Braja Prem. So this gives an indication of how we think of Lord Shiva in our line. Most people worship him as an independent demigod, and many as the creator of this material world. And they see him, independent and on the same level as Lord Vishnu, right? But Mahadev never sees himself like that. He always sees himself as a servant of the Lord. But he accepts the worship of materialists to satisfy their material desires. That is his role, one of his roles, right, in these different forms of Mahadev. Parvati, his consort, also accepts worship for that same purpose. And they protect the beauty and the practice of bhakti by diverting unqualified people from using bhakti to fulfill material desire. But if a person has a special qualification and they're worshiping Parvati or worshiping Lord Shiva, then they may be given the benediction to come to bhakti. Just like the Brihad Bhagavatamrita tells that story of the Asami Brahmana. Originally, his family from Vrindavan, he ends up in Assam. He's worshiping a form of the goddess, Durga, Mahamaya, but he's innocent. He's just worshiping for some kind of liberation, and she gives him Gopal mantra and directs him to go to Vrindavan. And along the way, Lord Shiva also gives him direction and encouragement. So for those who are qualified, and the highest form of Lord Shiva is that form as Gopishwar. And he can give Braj Prem. Right? And so, Gurudev quotes a poem, a prayer by Raghunath Das Goswami. Let's see, is that? Yes. And it is Muda Gopendra Syatmaja Bhuja Parisanga Nidaye Spurad Gopir Vrindaryam Iha Bhagavatam Pranayibi Bajad Bishtair Bhaktyasvama Bilasitam Praptam Acharad Yamitire Gopishwaram Anudinam Tam Kila Bhaje. I daily worship Gopishwar Mahadev. So you're asking about our acharyas. This is composed by Raghunath Das. I daily worship Gopishwar Mahadev, who is situated on the bank of Jamuna. That very Gopishwar was worshipped with deep devotion by the gopis, and he quickly fulfilled their desire to attain a supremely precious jewel in the form of the embrace of the son of Nanda Maharaj. All right. So there's a nice footnote here which explains something about Lord Shiva and Gopishwar. And this is from The Pinnacle of Devotion, another book based on lectures of Srila Narayana Maharaj. In his original and most pure form, Shiva is eternally Gopishwar Mahadev. So this, we're getting some conception established here, how we can reconcile all these different forms, right? And the preeminence of the original Gopishwar. So, his original and most pure form, eternally Gopishwar Mahadev. Yet, he performed the following human-like pastime in which he became Gopishwar. Lord Shiva wanted to become a gopi. He performed austerities, and when Purnamasi Yogamaya was pleased and appeared before him, he prayed to join Krishna's Rasa Leela. Purnamasi mercifully assisted him in dipping in Brahma Kund, and he immediately assumed the form of a teenage gopi. He then went to the place where Rasa Leela was being performed and hid there in a grove. Okay. So Lord Shiva has his eternal male form in Vrindavan. In that form, he also wanted in Leela to take part, right, in all of this, in a way that he's not qualified, because no male other than Krishna is allowed to be in the place of the Rasa Leela. Krishna and the gopis sensed that someone of a different mood had come. They asked each other, "Why are you not so happy today? What is the matter?" After searching, they discovered the new gopi. She was hiding in a kunja. She had been placed there by Purnamasi. They found this new gopi, and they asked her, "Who are you? What is your name? Who are your parents? What is your husband's name? What is your in-laws' house?" These are all elements of the Ekadash Bhavs, the identity that we have in our spiritual form. We have a name, we have parents, we come from a village, certain dress, right? All these elements of our identity and our service. And she had not yet gotten that. She had the form, but she didn't have a name. She didn't know any of these things, right? So she wasn't really qualified yet to witness this Rasa Leela, what to speak of taking part. When Shiva in this female form could not reply, they began to slap her so much that her cheeks became swollen, and she began to cry. "Oh, Jogamaya, Jogamaya, save me. I will never again come to Vrindavan. I will never dare take part again in the Rasa Leela." Purnamasi arrived, and she requested that the gopis show mercy to Lord Shiva. "She is the object of my mercy," Purnamasi told them. The gopis then accepted her as a gopi, and Krishna named her Gopishwar, which means she whose Ishvars, the controllers, are the gopis. Not that she is the worshipable object of the gopis, but he worships or she worships the gopis. Gopi Ishvara. He blessed her to become the guardian of the Rasa Leela, and said, "Without the sanction of Gopishwar, no one will be able to enter the Rasa Leela." So one of the very important parts of Vrindavan Parikram is to visit Gopishwar. And sometimes it's very difficult. That temple can be so crowded, and even the streets all around, almost impossible to get there. Generally, you want to get there really early in the morning if you can. Last time I was in Vrindavan, Giridhari Maharaj took us out really early, right after Mangalartik. We all lined up and marched off, right? And we got there plenty early. But even then, there was some crowd. And you go in and you circumambulate. There's a sunken area. There's the lingam of Lord Shiva, and sometimes Gopishwar is there also in that form. But you worship Gopishwar.
Small lingam, right? That big?
Yeah. That's not so small.
Yes.
I guess there's bigger, but there's also many smaller. Yeah, but very beautiful place. Very beautiful mood there. So there's another story which Gurudev told us earlier about Lord Ram installing the deity of Mahadev at Rameshwar, where he crossed over to Lanka. And he wanted to take the blessings of Lord Shiva in Narvat Leela, human-like Leela, right? And so installed that, and that deity is called Rameshwar Mahadev. And there was an argument amongst the demigods and others. What does that mean? It means, Lord Ram worships Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is his Ishtadev. And other demigods, no, they're equal, they're the same. Anyway, hearing this, Lord Shiva himself exclaimed, no. The name Rameshwar means that Ram is my Lord. I am a worshipper of Lord Ram. He is my Ishtadev. But in Leela, to teach others how to respect and honor Lord Shiva according to his position and role, Lord Ram also worshipped him. Lord Krishna also worshipped him for progeny, right? He performed worship in Dwarka for that purpose. So, Sri Sanatana Goswami, the great Vaishnav saint who resided in Vrindavan near the old Sri Madan Mohan temple, would go daily to see Sri Gopishwar Mahadev at his temple. Once in his older years, Sanatana Goswami had a dream wherein Gopishwar Mahadev appeared and instructed him, "Now you are old. Please do not go through so much trouble to see me." It's a bit of a walk from Madan Mohan all the way into Vrindavan and to where Gopishwar is. And in those days, it was paths and stuff. Nothing was so developed. And, he was very old. And so Sanatana Goswami said, no, I will continue to come. I cannot change this habit. I must see you. I must worship you. Gopeswara Mahadev said, then I will come and stay very near to your residence, manifesting in Bakandi. The very next day, Sri Gopeswara Mahadev appeared in Bankandi, halfway between his original temple and Sri Sanatana Goswami's residence. Seeing this, Sanatana Goswami became overwhelmed with transcendental ecstasy, and from that day, he visited Bakandi Mahadev every day. Very nice temple. That's up the road from Loy Bazaar. If you turn right at the end of the road of Moy Bazaar, and then go down that road, and then there's an intersection from the backside, a kind of another big shopping area. There's that little temple of Bakandi Mahadev. Very popular temple. Very beautiful. And that is the form that manifested for Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami also worshipped him at Manasi Ganga. Sanatana Goswami had a bhajan kutir there and had a relationship with Lord Shiva. Let's see if he's going to say that. Wherever he was, Srila Sanatana Goswami could not live without his beloved Lord Shiva. Gopeshwara Mahadev and Bakandi Mahadev in Vrindavan, and Kameshwara Mahadev in Kamyavan forest. In Govardhan, he would stay near his very dear friend, Chakreshwara Mahadev, who acquired the name when he served Govardhan Hill and the Brajbasis by holding up his trident like a chakra, protecting them from the torrential deluge sent by King Indra. So there you go, more examples of our acharyas. Sanatana Goswami, right? Our Sambandha Acharya, establishing the philosophical foundation of all Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Very dear, many pastimes with him. In fact, staying in that place of Manasi Ganga, Sanatana Goswami told Lord Shiva one day, I can't be here anymore. I have to leave. Why? Because so many mosquitoes. Right? They just torment me day and night. I can't bear it. So I have to leave. I'm so sorry. And Mahadev says, well, wait, I'll make an arrangement that from now on no mosquitoes will bother you or anyone else. So he did. And to this day, mosquitoes are not a problem. Even though there's that large, not stagnant, but standing water, and all over the place, standing water, no mosquitoes, right? Prior to this, Lord Shiva had asked Sri Krishna for the boon to witness his childhood pastimes. Krishna ordered him to situate himself in Nandagan in the form of a hill. Shiva followed this order and became Nandishwar hill, and thus became known as Nandishwar. Lord Brahma, he became Brahma Parvat, the mountain in Varshana. There's two mountains, right? Brahma Parvat and Vishnu Parvat, side by side. And then we go through that narrow little gap up to Shriji temple, up to the place of Vishwabhanu Maharaj's palace in Barshana. So, and because Brahma is so near to Radhika, he's also our Gurudev. Gurudev said that. I remember one time when we were in Govardhan, and he was saying that we come from the disciplic succession of Lord Brahma because he has this inclination towards Radhika. He may or may not have full realization. We don't know. But he has that inclination. He's obviously great pure devotee. The guru of Narad was the guru of Vedavyas, the guru of Shukadev. But he manifested himself in service as Brahma Parvat in Varshana, right, to serve Srimati Radhika. So, we honor Lord Shiva as a great Vaishnava and as guru. So you're answering these questions. We do not worship him separately. We observe Shivaratri, Lord Shiva's appearance day, and we glorify him in connection to his relation with Sri Krishna. Sri Sanatana Goswami has written in his Hari Bhakti Vilas that all Vaishnavas should observe Shiva Chaturdashi, which is this day. Lord Shiva, in whom all good qualities reside, should certainly be honored by the observance of this day. Right? So again, we refer back to the instructions of Padma Purana, talking about offenses to the holy name. We don't consider Lord Shiva and the other demigods to be on the same level of Lord Vishnu, and yet we don't respect them as being different because they are empowered with the energy of the Lord to perform their various functions in the development and maintenance of this universe, establishing and upholding of Dharma. Because if they were the same, and especially even Lord Shiva, then it would be the philosophy of Bahu Ishvaravad, many independent and equal controllers, wherein ultimately there's only one. And this Lord Shiva, in his form of Sadashiv, he is an expansion, right? Just like there are many expansions of the Lord, and in those they have the identity as Vishnu Tattva, but the mood of service, and And Sadashiv, in his original forms in Vrindavan, manifests himself completely, not as an object of worship, but as a servant of the Lord. He appears as a yogi in Vrindavan, right? Going here and there. And sometimes during Krishna Lila, he will manifest as the worshipable God, because in Narvat Lila, human-like Lila, as we've mentioned earlier, many people worship Lord Shiva with that conception. But we worship Lord Shiva as the very dear devotee of the Lord and very dear friend of the Lord's devotees, like Sanatana Goswami, and as Gopishwara, right? And as Kameshwara, and the Lokapala of the other places, the protector of the Dham. And here's another prayer from Sankalpa Kalpadrum. Vrindavani Pate Jaya Soma Soma Mole. You may know this from your worship, your bhajan every morning, puja. Sanaka Sanandana Sanatana Nada Dedya Gopishwara Vrajavelasi Yogangri Padme Prema Prayacha Nirupadi Namo Namaste. O gatekeeper of Vrindavan, O Soma, all glories to you. O you whose forehead is decorated with the moon, and who is worshipable by the sages, headed by Sanak, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Narad. O Gopishwar, desiring that you bestow upon me prem for the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Madhav, who perform joyous pastimes in Brajadam, I offer obeisance unto you time and again. So, there's a lot of pastimes. I'll just read this pastime. A Brahmana in Kasi, from Varanasi, right, once prayed to Lord Shiva, I want to give my daughter in marriage, but I have no money. Please give me money. Right? Give me. That's why they worship Lord Shiva. Of course, many people in India also worship Lord Shiva in the practice what's called Panchopasana, one of the 5 gods. But they worship to become Shiva themselves and to ultimately merge into the impersonal Brahman. And they consider Lord Shiva to be a form manifested by that Brahman to accept our worship, focus our senses, withdraw them from the material universe, and ultimately be able to merge into that Brahman. There are many impersonalists who worship in that way. But this is typical Karmakandi Brahmana who wants stuff. I got to get my daughter married. Lord Shiva told him, I have no money. You go to Vrindavan and you meet with Srila Sanatana Goswami. You can ask him to give you some wealth for your daughter's marriage. The Brahmana went to Vrindavan by foot, and there he asked the villagers for the whereabouts of a person named Sanatana Goswami. As they all knew him, they pointed out his residence. Sri Sanatana Goswami was practicing bhajan near the Jamuna River at Kaliahred, right, which is pretty near to the place of Madan Mohan now, the former abode of the very poisonous snake named Kalia. Kaliahred was very close to the Jamuna. Now the Jamuna has moved a little bit, but still pretty close. And therefore its surrounding area was full of sand. Srila Sanatana Goswami wore only a loincloth. He used to go begging door to door for a small amount of prasad and would take that as his meal. And only one dry chapati with no salt. And sometimes he'd also just beg and get a little flour. If he got a little atta, he would take it, mix it with water, put it next to the fire. It would bake, and he'd eat those hard, rock-hard balls, soak them in water. It's the whole pastime of Krishna complaining to him, Madan Gopal, why, I've come to be with you, you're giving me only these hard, rock-like dough balls to eat. They're so plain, not even a little salt. And Sanatana Goswami says, hey, when you wanted to come with me, I told you, I'm very poor, I have nothing, I can't provide for you like you should be provided for. I can't even give you khichdi like the Chaudhry Brahmanas did in Mathura. If you want anything better, you have to arrange yourself. And so that was the pastime where the boats got stuck and the big merchant came up to ask Sanatan for help. And then when he saw the deity of Madan Gopal, he became so entranced, he vowed, if I get my boat stuck and I sell my load, a lot of which was also salt, he's going to Agra, then I'll build a temple for this deity. So anyway, the boats got loose, right, by the mercy of the Lord. And before leaving, he also gave a bunch of salt, so that at least he had that in the meantime. And, so that's where he was at that time. So the Brahmin came to Sanatan's place, and he says, I went to Shankara Mahadev, Lord Shiva, and he told me to meet you. He said, you will give me some wealth for my daughter's marriage. And Sanatana Goswami replied, I have no possessions. You can see I have nothing but a loincloth. Then he thought, oh, Shiva cannot tell a lie. He is my bosom friend. I heard, Gurudev and also Srila Prabhupada the other day speaking about the Goswamis having nothing. And thus they were completely free of all anxiety because they were so absolutely, one-pointedly absorbed in the mood of service to Krishna, absolute surrender, Gopradve Vadaram Tata, right? That Krishna is my only protector and my only provider. Whatever he wants is good enough for me. So they didn't bother in the least way. And so it was a loincloth. The less you have, the less you have to worry about. This is what brahmachari life is about. Student life, when you're young, to live with very little and to realize how happy you can be. When we were in ISKCON, we had nothing. We didn't even have our own clothes. Every morning there was a big box of laundry that was done, and you just pick out a dhoti. Maybe there was if you got a T-shirt, you were really lucky. Oh, wow. And there was 2 kurtas in the box. Out of 100 people, there was 2 kurtas. And if you got that, wow. It was one of those stupid, really thin cotton ones with the little embroidery on it. I just thought, whoa, But otherwise, nothing. No socks even, no socks, no sweaters, no nothing. And when we traveled on Traveling Sankirtan or in our buses, everything we had could be fit in a box like that, right? I remember when I went to India to live, after Srila Prabhupada left, I had everything that I owned in a bag this big, right? And that was enough. Whatever else you needed would be there in the temple. You got your little suchi kit, you got a change of cloth, What else do you need? And it was simple, very simple, very peaceful. But then, you need a watch to preach. Indians Prabhupada had a Rolex, so you try to get a watch. Oh, a nice briefcase, because they're impressed by that. You get yourself a Western briefcase. And if you had a tape recorder, where you could play cassettes and all, so gradually, you start to acquire things for service. But it becomes more and more complicated, right? The less you have, brahmachari life, simple. The Brahmana arrived at the cottage. Okay, so Sanatana's saying, wait, he knows my heart. He can't tell a lie. He's my friend. Thinking of Lord Shiva and contemplating further, he remembered a touchstone that he had once discarded and forgotten. Somehow he came into connection with this chintamani. Material chintamani. You press it, whatever you want, turns it into gold. Right? They're there. Go to the Jamuna and remove some of the sand, and there you will find a touchstone. It is somewhere in the sand, although I don't remember where. Another version is it was just in the garbage heap, right? And the Brahmin found the jewel, and he touched it to some iron, and the iron turned into gold, and he became very, very happy that Lord Shiva told him to come to Vrindavan, and thought with gratitude, my prayer's been answered by Lord Shiva. On the way home, however, his greed for money increased, and he began thinking, why did Sanatana Goswami keep the touchstone in the sand? It had no use there. He must have something even more valuable. Jewels, perhaps. I don't know. See, that's what association before. He just wanted to get his daughter married. Now he has access to virtually unlimited opportunity for wealth. Now he's got a piece of gold. He can buy all the iron he wants, turn that into gold, and just, but it's not enough. He's greedy because of association with wealth. It's never enough. On the march to material happiness, people think, the lower class thinks, if I only had, a nice apartment to rent. They get that, if only I had a bigger apartment. If only I had my own house. The richer you get, you keep thinking, I'm not happy yet, but if I had that. And the ultra wealthy, they have multiple mansions everywhere, cars everywhere. It's never enough. Never enough. So, it's never enough. So he went back, eager for more. So, why have you come back? Sanatana Goswami said. I have come because I know that you have more valuable jewels than this. Sanatana Goswami said, okay, if you want the most valuable jewel, then go and throw the touchstone in the Jamuna. The Brahmana, what? But he said he's got something more valuable, he did it. So once it's thrown into the Jamuna, there's no getting it back, right? And then Sanatana Goswami said, come here. He gave him the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? And he said, I don't have any worldly jewels, but I have transcendental jewels. The jewel of Lord Krishna and Sri Radha will come to you in a very short time. So remain here. Your daughter's marriage will take place automatically. Stay here and chant Hare Krishna. That Brahmin followed his instruction and became a very elevated saint. Right? So this person had material desire. He went to Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva, seeing something there, sent him to Sanatana Goswami. See, they had a very intimate relationship. Lord Shiva, great Vaishnav, and he wants the highest for everyone. And so because this is the Kali Yuga and the time of Mahaprabhu, everyone has opportunity for the highest mercy, Braj Prem. And so by the blessing of Lord Shiva, then Sanatana Goswami felt, my dear friend is inclined to him, and then step by step was arranged that he could have this. He became a great devotee. All right? So I see my plan was to progress in a certain way. I was going to jump to other stories and not do so many pastimes, but Gurudev loves telling these stories, and that's a very important thing to understand Lord Shiva in his devotional sentiments and his devotional roles. We're going to read more from this book tomorrow, and depending on how far we get, we may do more the next day, but I also want to read Brahma Samhita, but I can see reading this in advance will be very good, because the Brahma Samhita, the commentary of Jiva Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's very technical, and the statements of Lord Brahma. When we were in Bangalore, we would sometimes spend 2 or 3 weeks on Siva Tattva, reading this, all of the Brahma Samhita verses and commentary, and all the Bhagavatam that we could find about Lord Shiva. We did this every year, right? So this is a good start. So, offering our obeisance to our beloved Gopishwar Mahadev, right? Lord Shiva in Vrindavan also, many pastimes, to our beloved Guru, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, our Rupanuga Guru Parampara, all the Sampradayas, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.